Dr. Kaba, once again, it's always a pleasure and an honor to have you on the platform. I'll never take your presence, your knowledge lightly at all. Before we even get started in this great discussion, again, like what I always say, we love you, we appreciate you, and we honor you. So, thank you for always sharing your time, information, energy with us all the time. So I just want to say thank you for that.
Well, brother, I want to thank you for giving me the opportunity, man, because I really respect the work that you're doing
Yes, sir.
and the route that you've taken, and my sister Sid, and together as a team, what you're doing for us, our community, myself. So we appreciate you also, brother. Together, we're going to
Awesome.
make this happen.
Indeed, indeed, Baba. Your hoodie, I love it. Moors. It's look, perfect timing, right on brand. Our discussion tonight about your latest book,
Yes, man.
Who Are the Moors Before the Moors, Baba. And I think that's such a deep title of just knowing who we are. As you know, Moors, sometimes that could be a touchy subject where, certain people stand on one side, others on the other. So starting out, framing question, who were the Moors before the Moors, Baba?
That is the key. The Moors always were, and they always will be. And just to tie in, Brother Caleb, with what you said before, what's so important, we have to put aside all of the things that we may feel different about and
Yeah.
understand. More is another word for melanated people.
Mhm.
We get caught up, I think, with the episode of the Moors between 711 and 1492. That's what we really focus on, the Moors in Europe. And the reason why I think we do that is, first and foremost, everything that has come as it relates to Western civilization came out of that experience.
Mhm.
But it is also a European experience. And if you can't go before 711 to understand who they were, people can slip in and identify themselves as Moors, just like people slip in and identify themselves as Egyptians. No, you had nothing to do with that. And so it becomes important that we lay out the evidence for that. The idea that I have a chapter in the book, Who Were the Moors Before the Moors? I have a chapter in the book that deals with the Mediterranean basin, the Mediterranean area. We look at the Africans that were there thousands of years ago. We talk about Greece before there were Indo-Europeans there. We talk about Rome. There's a chapter on Etruria. Etruria, Etruria, Etruria. That basically is the what might be considered the western coast of what we today call Italy. The islands of Sardinia and Corsica. These were African islands. To understand this concept of these Africans, you've got to look at the Pelasgians. And Brother Caleb, I'm a teacher, so I spell. Because I believe that if somebody that is watching this program would like to move to the next level and would like to do their own research, I want to give you the spelling of it, because I know talking, you may not be able to get the spelling of the word. So I spell a lot so that people can do their own research. Because for me, Brother Caleb, I've said before, don't believe a word I say. I'm not here for you to believe me. I'm here to make us think. Come to your own conclusion. Even if you don't, like I did a presentation one time, and one of the participants in the group disagreed with me. And I said, well, that's good. Because in order to disagree with me, I had to have made you think. And if I made you think, I am successful in what I'm doing. I think sometimes when we present information to our people psychologically, we want them to believe us. I don't, particularly when you work with children. When you work with children, you're trying to draw out information from them. And so therefore, you don't indoctrinate them in what you're saying. You put the information out there and then draw from them their own experiences around it. That calls for a questioning technique, which I really focus on a lot. My questioning technique. And to be able to question the learner in terms of connecting the information that I am giving with connection that you already know. And so that's the key for what I do. The Pelasgians, Pelasgian, Pelasgian. Because that word comes to us through the Greeks, we think it's Greek, but they're really identifying a people who they themselves identified These are the Africans that, and I listed 30 countries in the Mediterranean area. Islands like Crete, Minoa, what we call Greece, what we call Italy, what we call Spain, Portugal, and France. And then when you get to that very special place between France and Italy, there's a little country known as Monaco. And that becomes very important to understand the role that Monaco played, because it was a very unique, very small place. It still exists today, and it's a kingdom. And it's between France and Italy. And so what I attempt to do in the book is to go before 7/11 to lay the foundations of who was in this area. I have a chapter on the African origins of the Olympics. And what could blow people's minds, my brother Caleb, is the fact that the word Olympic itself comes from the Yoruba language of Nigeria. See, we get very romantic with Kush and Kemet. Rightfully so. Great things came there. But all of Africa was great. While Egypt was building their pyramids, there were civilizations being built in Nigeria, in Ghana, in Luba and Cuba in Central Africa, in Namibia, Azania, Southern Africa. And it becomes important. Another thing is we talk about the Sahara. And one of the reasons why it's so interesting as we develop this story in this book, Who Were the Moors Before the Moors? Research was done on a river that started in Algiers in the Atlas Mountains. And this river wound itself through the northern part of Africa into West Africa and emptied out into the coast of a country we today call Mauritania. It's called Cape Timorous. The river is called the Tamanrasset River. Tamanrasett. Tamanrasset. You can Google it. There were, from space, there were X-rays taken of the Sahara. Under the Sahara, there are fish bones, animal bones, vegetable leftover, And what happened with the Tamanrasset River is that, and we talk about it again because we expand on this, because these are all the foundations for us to understand certain things about North Africa and West Africa, and the relationship between the commonality of these two people. Because it was the onset of the Sahara that dried up the Tamanrasset River and many other rivers that were in the Sahara. I give you a picture of what the Sahara looked like before it dried up, when it was lush and tropical and had trees. You can see it, okay? And then I show you what the desert looks like now. But when the desert, it was, it's called the AHP, which means the African humid phase, humid, 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 wet. That was when it was lush. And then about 5,000 BC, give or take, about 7,000 years ago, Africa was impacted by the Ice Age. And the Ice Age brought a desiccation. It brought a drying up of this area. And that is known as the AAP, the African arid phase, where this lush area began to dry up. The rains coming down, very heavy during the Ice Age. It was cold up in Europe, but it was wet in North Africa, and it dried up the land. And in drying up the land, the wind blew the dunes or the desert sands from East Africa to West Africa, and that's the evidence of the fact that this area was very lush at one time. See, Brother Caleb, we're talking about evidence here. Nothing personal, nothing emotional. And when this began to happen, remember, this is going to happen over thousands of years. What's going to happen is that the Africans that are more north of this area, they're going to go north. And the ones that were a little bit more south, as the area is drying up, they're going to move south. and they're going to end up in southern Mauritania. They're going to create 4 different settlements. They're called Dars, D-A-R-S. Dar-Tichet, Dar-Tangent, Dart-Nima, 4 of them, where these people moved. Eventually, all of these people, about 2500 BC, they all come together and they create one masterful civilization called Wagadu. Wagadu is what we today call ancient Ghana in southern Mauritania. And in this area, they're going to create a civilization. So that when we look at ancient Ghana, many times they give us ancient Ghana as if it were like in the medieval period. But in reality, Ghana, that's not the name. Ghana is what they call the king. Like amongst the Malinki, they called him Mansa. During the Songhai kingdom, they called the king Askia. During the Wagadu period, they called the king Ghana. So now you're going to have Indo-Europeans, basically Arab and Europeans. They are now going to call this kingdom the name of the king. It's like if we had a civilization and we decided to call it president. That's the name of the leader of the United States. But that's not the name of the country.
Yeah.
And so, and because they do that, it can move you away from understanding Wagadu, the Dars that were created, the settlements that were created, the kingdoms that were created, and then they can tell you that that kingdom started at a point where they came in contact with it, like somewhere in the 1100s or the 1200s AD, which is off the point altogether. But the key is the African people of West Africa look like the same people that were in North Africa because they separated. And so now we have a people basically after 600 AD that are going to convert to Islam, which was an African faith system. They're going to travel into Africa and then they're going to start to claim everything that's there. They're going to claim they created Timbuktu. They didn't. Timbuktu was in existence long before them. In fact, the reason why they went to Timbuktu was because they had heard of its greatness. And then they get up into North Africa, into Tunis. They get up into Morocco. They get into these areas. And then there's already Africans from the Mediterranean, the Pelasgians, they're already in Europe. And all of a sudden now, they're claiming that they were the ones that went, and they were the Moors. And so what my book is attempting to do is to make it very plain. And also, it's not just about what happened back then, but Brother Caleb, it's about today. And that's why my subtitle of the book is Mi Amor. And I specifically use the Spanish language because Mi Amor means my love. Because I spell it M-I, and then I have a small a and a capital M-O-O-R, not the U of Amor. A-M-O-U-R. It's A-M-O-O-R, Mi Amor. You're a Moor, Brother Caleb. Sister Sid is a Moor. We're all Moors. And in the beginning of the book, I make it real plain. I don't care you call yourself Black, African, Hebrew Israelite, Muslim, Negro, Nick, I'm not going to say it, but I don't care what you call yourself. Understand, Moor is a term that's just like that. So let's stop this mindless arguing and understand who you are. There's only one of us. But every time we start getting different names for ourselves, and it's not just us. When you look at our Spanish-speaking brothers and sisters, Hispanic, Latino, Latinx, okay, how many names can you call yourself? And then we argue about why you call that. Why you call, I'm not Black, I'm Moor. I'm not a Moor, I'm African-American. I ain't no African-American, I'm an American-African. I'm saying, I don't care what you call yourself. You are who you are. Because you know, Brother Caleb, if we cannot come to a conclusion about what we call ourselves, how are we going to solve our situation? That's a basement question right there. How you gonna get up into the 30th floor if you can't get out the basement? And so that is the cornerstone to the book more. And also, there's a number of things that I do in this book. But you know, the other thing, Brother Caleb, is that with all the other 5 books that I've written, okay, my first book was William Leo Hansberry.
Yes, sir.
I paid homage to this brother.
Yeah.
I paid libation. This is an intellectual libation to this brother when I was starting my writing career in 2014. I said, I'm going to honor this brother. Dr. John Henry Clark, who's my teacher, when I was going for my first master's degree. And I was talking to him about my thesis paper. He said, well, you know, somebody that is doing very much what you're doing in the Board of Ed, but he's unsung. People don't really know who he is. He said, this is the man that started the first African studies program in an accredited college. And he said, if you're into Black studies, and even now as we study Black history, and, you know, we just on podcasts and, you know, we're on Zoom and we're talking about Black history. If we don't know who this brother is, then there's a large gap in our understanding. And so I decided that, you know, libation is when you pay homage to your ancestors. So I paid homage to William Leo Hansberry in my first book. But you know what's interesting, brother? This was the book I wanted to write. Shabaka Stone.
Yeah.
This is what I want. This was the book I wanted to write. I had promised myself since 1976, when I first got a Xerox copy of Dr. George M. James's book, Stolen Legacy, Chapter 8, page 139 to 151. The Memphite Theology, rewritten on Shabaka Stone. I was very interested because I wanted to be an astronaut. And I was very much into cosmology, studying the heavens and the moon and things like that growing up. And when I read that chapter, it just blew my mind, Brother Caleb. I mean, I had never even, like I knew it, but my neurons weren't connected for it.
Yes, sir.
When I read that chapter, that connected my neurons, and all of a sudden, man, it ignited a desire to teach this, because as I began to study more and reach out more to this information, Shabaka Stone, and the Memphite theology, I said to myself, I have to write a book on this one day. This is 1976 now. You know, I'm a young blood at this time. I'm not even a formal teacher until
50
1977.
years. Talking about
Yeah,
50 years ago. That's
that's
amazing.
it. That's
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
And
Wow.
the reason why I wrote Professor Hansberry was because I wanted to write this one, Shabaka Stone. Because when you understand Shabaka Stone, you understand everything as it relates to religions. This is where the Abrahamic religions came from, the Old and the New Testament. This is where Islam came from. The theoretical framework of spiritual philosophy came out of Shabaka Stone. And one of the interesting things about Pharaoh Shabaka was a pharaoh of the 6th Napatan, or the 25th dynasty. He was the one that finally brought Kemet back to an African base. And he came upon this document, the Memphite Theology, and it was worm-eaten. And he decided that, he said, I want to rewrite this because it was worm-eaten. And he was concerned because it was so valuable a document. He was afraid that it would get lost in time. And so he decided that what he wanted to do was he wanted to rewrite it on stone so that it would never be forgotten. On stone, you see, this is the key right here for me, because he knew we were coming. He knew with his own mindset that there would be other groups having experienced the Hyksos, the invaders, and having gone through the intermediate period. He realized that Africa might not stay African or melanated. throughout its history. He saw invaders coming. So he said, nah, man, we ain't gonna have that. We're gonna carve it in stone. When we say, we have a proverb, we say written in stone. Well, that's where it came from. The final word. And what is interesting about the Shabaka stone, and I mention it, is that if you think of when the Memphite theology was first written, back thousands of years ago, and if you go to 710, when Shabaka was in Kemet rewriting the Memphite theology, okay? From when the Memphite theology was written to when Shabaka rewrote it. Now, if I now take you to when Shabaka rewrote it and today, more time elapsed between when it was first written and Shabaka than when Shabaka rewrote it and today. That's how ancient a document this is. And for anyone to have that type of phenomenal, magnificent information about the cosmos, because that's what they were writing about. They were writing about the cosmos. Because, like I tell people all the time, when you talk about like say someone that you love has passed away, and you say, oh, I know they're looking down on us now. Why are you looking up? When you say, man, I want to go to heaven, and you look up, when actors and singers win an award and they say, I just want to thank God. Why are you looking up? Because it's all astronomy. The symbols of the Christian church is the crux, which is the constellation of the crux, the crossing over. When you look at Hebrew, you have the Star of David. That's the Ast. That is inverted pyramids that are in the heavens. It's a star. When you look at Islam, you have the crescent moon and star. All of the symbols of religions, particularly the Abrahamic religions, they're all astronomy. And so this book is dealing with the idea of spirituality. However, this was my third book. To get folk ready for the third book, this is my second book, which is Spirituality Before Religions. And a lot of people gravitate towards this. Yeah. I wanted them to get to this. But folk look at this because spirituality is unseen science. Science is seen spirituality. Brother Caleb, Black people don't believe in God. Black people don't have faith in God. Black people know God. See, you can stop believing and you can lose your faith. But once you know, you know. We know. And we know the truth, but we're afraid to look because during the enslavement period with the slave Bible, if we ever face the reality that we are the creator having a human experience, because everybody looking for God out here. I don't know why you're looking for God out here. Because you are God. You are the creator having a human experience. And even in your holy books, you say it all the time. But somehow or other, through cognitive dissonance, it goes past you because you're afraid because you are punished to ever think the truth. Because in the holy book, don't it say that God, if you want to call him God, I call creator, but God created us in his image. Now, I want you to go into the bathroom and look in the mirror. And I want to ask you, what are you looking at when you look in the mirror? You're looking at your image. So if God created us in his image, then we must be God. And not just that, but God must also be a woman. Because when women look in the mirror, who do they see? They don't see a man. They see a woman. And God is that unique energy that is both male and female energy. It's blasphemous. It's heretical. Folk come after you. They'll want to do to you what they did to Christ the last time he said, I am the Son of God. But when he said, I'm the Son of God, he didn't mean S-O-N, he meant S-U-N. I look at John, Excerpt from the Bible, John 3rd chapter, 16th verse.
Yeah.
God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten son. Whosoever believe in him shall have eternal life. See, I like the Bible, brother. I don't have a problem with the Bible. I don't have a problem with the Old or the New Testament. I don't have a problem with the Quran. I have a problem with the interpretation of those books because they're basically white supremacists. And their interpretation is to keep you enslaved and to make them look like God, because even in the slave Bible, they say you are to be to your master as you are to God. So they put themselves as a God on the plantation. So if you ever looked outside to know that you are God, then you would never look at that European landowner as God. And then they would lose power over you. And so the interpretation of these holy books is what I have a problem with, not the scripture.
Yeah.
Because like I said, in Shabaka Stone is the Old and New Testament. Except what they did is they turned it around. What they did was that they made the Old Testament really is the Aten priesthood. Moses really is Akhenaten. The New Testament is the Amen priesthood with Jesus Christ. And this is why, like the Amen priesthood is the Catholic Church and the Christian Church, particularly the Catholic Church, because the Christian Church came out the Catholic Church. Okay, they were protesting, so they became Protestants. You know, with Martin Luther writing his laws. You know, and so the Protestants came out of the Roman Catholic Church, but the Roman Catholic Church basically has a pope, and the pope is the pharaoh or the Neset Biti. Then you have the cardinals and the bishops. They are the high priests and priestesses, except they got rid of the priestesses and only have the high priests. And then you have the monsignors and you have the priests, and all of those were part of the Kemetic spiritual hierarchy in their civilization. So that's Christianity is the Amen priesthood. That's why at the end of their prayers they say Amen. And Amen is one of the important essences of the Creator in Shabaka stone. Amen is the hidden, and Amenet is the revealed. Because to have a God, you must have a goddess. You have Nun and you have Nunet. You have Kuk and you have Coquette. And when it ends in T, that's a female. You have Ha, Hohet, Amen, Amenet. You cannot have a male without a female. That's just the way our African ancestors thought. And it's not just in terms of East Africa, but in the book Who Were the Moors Before the Moors, when I get into the Moors of Mali and Songhai, I get into the Orishas. And I start talking about the Orishas, and I connect the Orishas as a spiritual system with the Neteru of Egypt. I can make those connections. So that in Shabaka stone, it's the Old and New Testament. So that's Hebrew and Christian. Islam is a combination. It is when Africans did not like the way in which the church was going that they decided to create a combination of things where they took a little bit of Christianity and a little bit of Hebrewism, and that is why Allah is not a person. Because the early Muslims said, well, before it was Islam or Muslim, because Islam means a way of peace, and Muslim means a person of peace. They said, like, Europeans got too deep inside the fact that Jesus Christ was both man and God. Now, I don't have a problem with that, as long as you understand that God is man and wombed man. So, yeah, you know, I can see Christianity, but what Islam was telling the Christians is that he wasn't a human being born on a certain day. And he wasn't the only one. And so this is why you had the Prophet Muhammad. Now, metaphorically, the Prophet Muhammad becomes us. We are all prophets because we are all the sons, S-U-N, of the Creator, men and women. And one of the greatest problems we have in this civilization is the denigration of women.
Mm-hmm.
Because when you denigrate women, you denigrate yourself. Because, Brother Khalib, your daddy and my daddy gave your mommy and my mommy his Y chromosome. My sister, my daddy gave my mommy his X chromosome. But we're both, no matter what, we are both man and woman as an energy. But the chromosome in science made you and I males and made my sister, I don't know if you have a sister.
Sure. No, I don't have a sister. Only one brother.
One brother. Okay, so
Yes, sir.
brother got daddy's Y chromosome too. But
Yeah.
I have a sister. And so she got my daddy's X chromosome.
Yeah.
This is science now. So that the idea is the fact that, you know, we are both men and women, but it's energy. But the gender was created in order for us to be able to procreate life.
Mm-hmm.
And so when you look at that story and when you understand that story, it's a beautiful story. But until women sit back on their throne, because women are the throne. That's why Aset is a throne. When she has on her head, she has a throne. When you look at Aset and Heru, her son, where he's sitting on her lap and suckling at her breast or being sustained by his mother, that's the Pharaoh sitting on the throne. So while the men rule, it's the women who give the men the right to rule.
Right.
They are the rulership. They're not above, they're not below. Because, you know, hey, listen, as a man, I'm proud to be a man. I would be willing to be a woman, but I wasn't born that way. I was born a man. I'm very proud to be a man. But I recognize the beauty in women and their role and how important they are to us as a civilization, not just as a person, but as a civilization. They continue us. They sit beside us. We're not above them. They're not above us. It's not better or worse. It's just co-equal. The idea that a woman in America has to have an ERA, an Equal Rights Amendment, for you to have to write a law in your governance that makes a woman equal, tells me that that civilization will never advance, ever, until that woman is respected and not patronized. I'm not talking about patronizing.
Yeah.
I'm talking about understanding that there is an equality between the genders, period. Women bring something to this civilization that men don't. Men bring something to this civilization that women don't. But together we make it powerful. That's what the Shabaka stone is talking about when the Shabaka stone talks about Ma'at, the feminine principle. Her husband is knowledge. Ma'at is truth, justice, balance, harmony, order, arrangement, reciprocity. Will go around, come around. She is the path of life, cosmic order. The man, Tehuti, who's said to be her husband, her counterpart is knowledge, wisdom, and understanding. To be on the path, you have to have knowledge, wisdom, and understanding. When you have knowledge, wisdom, and understanding, you're on the path. You can't be on the path if you don't have knowledge, wisdom, and understanding. And you can't have knowledge, wisdom, and understanding if you're not on the path. So you see, brother, how it complements. This is how African people thought. And this is the point I was trying to make in Shabaka stone. But Shabaka stone now, I said, now I have to write a book that's going to follow Shabaka stone. Because now that we have the astronomical understanding of the cosmos, and we understand the male and the female and the role that they played in civilization, now I got to bring that essence, that energy down on Earth and create the physics and the chemistry, which is carbon before melanin. Mm-hmm. I know a lot of us get caught up in melanin. I know I did. I was first introduced to melanin by Dr. Frances Cress Welsing back in the 70s when she used to come to New York. She was the first person I ever heard use the word melanin. But because that wasn't the topic, the theme of why she was in New York, I didn't pay attention to it. It wasn't until 1981, 82 when Dr. Richard King came and did a presentation on melanin. Mm-hmm. And he looked at the group. We were in a church, First World Alliance lecture series. He could see that a lot of us were a little baffled with melanin because we didn't know what it meant. And he said, okay, brothers and sisters, let me tell you this. If you can understand plant photosynthesis, then you can understand human photosynthesis. Because chlorophyll is the molecule in plants, and melanin is the molecule in humans. The chloroplast is the chlorophyllin cell in plants, and the melanocyte is the melanin cell in humans. The relationship of the sun to the plant is complementary to the relationship between the sun and the human. Plants were born to be green, humans were born to be black. And when he said that, Brother Caleb, that just blew my mind, man. I just said, wow. Because I was a kindergarten teacher at this time. This is 1981. I was teaching kindergarten. And I said, wow, that's heavy. And so when I went back to school on Monday, I started a science segment with my children on plant photosynthesis. I had bought 2 of his Xerox copy chapters on melanin, but I put that to the side because that was too heavy for me. I didn't understand that. I said, so I don't want to get deep into something that I'm not even going to be able to understand. But if I start with plant photosynthesis and I start making a comparative analysis to what he's saying in melanin, then I'll be able to understand it from a 5-year-old's perspective. Mm-hmm. And so that's what I did. The other thing is the reason why this is called carbon before melanin is because I had been going to Dr. Sebi since 1988, the African herbalist, biomineralist, Dr. Sebi. And I invited Dr. Sebi when I used to go down to the institute, the health institute down there by Barclays Center. In fact, they kicked him out of his center, 616 Pacific Street, where Barclays Center is. He came, and at the end he left, and I stayed answering questions, things like that. When I went back to the institute on 616 Pacific Street, Dr. Sebi was there, and I said, Dr. Sebi, what you think about the presentation? He said, Booker T, you dropped a lot of knowledge on everybody. But the one thing you have to understand is that it was carbon before it was melanin. Mm. And just like I would do with any scholar that I have a lot of respect for, Brother Caleb, I did some serious research on carbon. I have a chapter on carbon in the book. I had to get into that. I had to understand, what did Dr. Sebi mean when he said that? And then I came to understand what it was. There are 4 major atoms on the planet. There are others, but the 4 major ones: hydrogen, oxygen, nitrogen, and carbon. With hydrogen, nitrogen, and oxygen, you can take 2 or 4 of any of them, and you can combine them, they'll bind. You can take 2 parts hydrogen, 1 part oxygen, you have water. Take 2 parts hydrogen, 2 parts oxygen, you have hydrogen peroxide. Okay, you can do that with nitrogen. You can put 2 or 3 atoms together and create an atom. But when you introduce the carbon atom into those other, that's what creates the millions upon millions, if not billions of molecules that exist on the planet.
Mm-hmm.
Carbon is the cosmic glue. It's the black glue that binds everything, that makes the earth what it is. It makes the cosmos what it is. You have dark matter and you have dark energy. Dark energy pushes in on dark matter, pushes in, pushes in, pushes in, until dark matter is like a little black seed that it can't go no more because there's no space inside because energy has just pushed it in. And when it gets to the point where it can't go in anymore, it has to go somewhere, so it implodes.
Mm-hmm.
And a byproduct, nanodiamonds. And that's what the stars are. Stars are crystallized blackness. Like coal, under pressure, becomes diamonds. The stars are the same thing. Humans are the same thing. Just looking at it a little philosophically. The foundational Black American, the African who has ancestors in the 13 colonies. See, to me, brother, I know there's a lot of conversation between foundational Black American and Pan American. My bad. Foundational Black American and Pan African. I am a foundational Black American. My daddy from Alabama, my mother's from Boston. But I'm also Pan African. I don't like that word. I like Nebu Africa. Same thing, but Pan African is a Roman word. Pan meaning all. So the idea is the fact that, and see, I always want to clear that up because there's a lot of discussion because, see, they're dividing and they're conquering us.
Yeah.
They're making Nigerians fight us. We're fighting brothers and sisters from the Caribbean.
Mm-hmm.
We're arguing about who created this and who created that when it's so obvious. Yeah. Foundational Black Americans created the rap music that exists in the world today. Yeah. But every African in Puerto Rico, in República Dominicana, in Jamaica, all over the world, Africans rap. They talk. The word is sacred. Medu Nefer, the divine word. Everywhere around the world. But the rap music that we're talking about was born through foundational Black Americans. And when other African people came to America or being influenced by foundational Black American history in their country, they started rapping too, because it's in their DNA too. But there's a difference between creation and contribution. You got to understand the difference. Bob Marley, Peter Tosh, Dennis Miller, Toots and the Maytals, Jimmy Cliff. These are all people that brought what we today call reggae music to the front. Stevie Wonder and Marvin Gaye have reggae pieces in their albums. Okay, Master Blaster, Stevie Wonder. Okay, Sexual Healing, Third World Girl, Marvin Gaye. That's all reggae. You can hear reggae in their music. They did not create reggae music. They contributed to it, but they didn't create it. There's a difference. And sometimes when we try to take ownership of something that we didn't do, it defames the greatness of what you did do. Because you never celebrate what you did. You argue about you were the creator of it. You weren't. I taught on the same block where Kool Herc used to have his house parties. I taught right down the block. Every time I would go home and I would be driving, I passed the house party. I used to see Kool Herc down in the neighborhood on Sedgwick Avenue. That's where the school was. The school was on Sedgwick Avenue. And they did phenomenal work. Kool Herc was cool. He did good work. You know, Busta Rhymes, he's contributed to rap music phenomenally. But yo, Busta, you didn't create it. Not the rap that came from America, but you contributed to it, brother. When you look at all the others, my brother, Bad Bunny, okay, phenomenal performer. Puerto Ricans, I remember the Puerto Rican community, the Spanish speaking community up in the Bronx when I was walking the streets teaching in the Bronx. I remember watching brothers who spoke Spanish, brothers who spoke English, man. They used to cut up those boxes, put them on the ground, and they'd be doing break dancing. Break dancing was the listen, brothers were doing that back in the day with Cab Calloway, back in the 20s. Okay, you had the Nicholas brothers. They would do it. The Nicholas brothers used to exit the stage after their performance with the moonwalk. Michael Jackson did not create the moonwalk. He did a hell of a job on it. Come on now, you can't take the credit,
Yeah.
but you didn't create it, but you did contribute to it. You see, this is what we're getting into now, where we're tripping over our own, let's just call it, we're a little unstable about our personhood. And we don't want to give credit where credit is due. I enjoy giving credit to the brothers and sisters that have impacted my life, from John Henry Clark to all the brothers and sisters that I've sat at their feet to study, Asa Hilliard, Dr. Ben, Ivan Van Sertima, Shashi McIntyre. They did that. And I was able to benefit from it. And so the idea of who actually did what they did. I mean, Dr. Sebi, he was from Honduras. And this brother had a great impact on my health and nutrition. Okay. Malcolm X's mother was from Grenada. Marcus Garvey was from Jamaica. I ain't turning my back on them brothers and sisters. But I know my place and I know their place. And I respect it. So that in Carbon Before Melanin, what I'm attempting to do is to show the relationship of the carbon atom and the importance of it, because when you have the melanin molecule, and I have a picture of it, of the melanin molecule, one of the melanin molecules, you'll see nitrogen, you'll see oxygen, you'll see hydrogen, you'll see carbon, but it's the carbon that brought it all together and made it glue. And so that becomes very important as it relates to the chemistry and the physics of life on Earth, to understand it. But then, the fifth book, who were the Moors before the Moors? They were the carbon that came down to the earth. They were the spiritual philosophy in Shabaka stone. They were the Kush Kemites. We have to understand who they were. And if you read the last paragraph on the last page, this is my longest book, by the way. It has the most pages. This paragraph. When you read this paragraph, you'll understand the purpose of why I wrote the 5 books. And I'll just give you a spoiler alert. The last 2 words. The last 2 words. Well, I shouldn't say the last 2 words, the last 5 words. Right here. It says, Mia Moore. How about you? Because when you understand this, Brother Caleb, then you understand us as a human family on earth. You understand that there was a time when the Moor was carbon. Okay, I take you back to when the Moors, in the book, I take you back to when the Moors were bacteria. Bacteria that became plants, plants that became fish, fish that became amphibians, amphibians that became reptiles, reptiles that became mammals, and then the mammals went through their own life history to where we are right now. And now we have evolved to understand that we are the creator having a human experience. And this is what Shabaka Stone is trying to tell you. You are the creator. Don't look for no creator outside. You are the creator. And this book, Spirituality Before Religions, shows it to you. It demonstrates it to you. It shows you the pyramid text, the coffin text, the book of the coming forth today by night, the Aten text. It shows you where our ancestors, through evidence, told this story. And then, of course, I thank William Leo Hansberry for being such a phenomenal brother who his life, man, what he went through, and blessings on his queen, Myrtle Kelso Hansberry, and his two daughters, Gail and Kay, what they went through to bring us where we are today. And so my question to us is, if they were willing to do that then, with what they have, Brother Caleb, you and I sitting up here talking to each other, we got it made, brother.
Yes, sir.
Compared to what they had to deal with.
Yeah.
He received the first Haile Selassie Award back in the 50s. They asked him, what you going to do with that money? He said, I promised my wife if I ever got money, I was going to buy her a knife set to put in our kitchen. When he died, Howard University still owed him money. One of the most phenomenal people in the world. And so I began where I end, and I end where I began. And of course, I hand the baton to you and to Sid and to all those that will carry this legacy, because it's a story to be told, Brother Caleb. And our children deserve better than what our elder group is. And I'm considering myself part of the elder group. So I'm not pointing fingers out. It's distracting. What I know I'm doing is I am attempting to tell my redemption song. Like Bob Marley, old pirates, yes, they rob I, stole I from the merchant ships. He says, won't you help to sing these songs of freedom, these redemption songs, these songs that will free our soul and free our minds as a Black people, to understand how great we are. The work that it took you to do what you do, the work that it takes Sister Sid to do what she's doing, and then the work that you do combined, because you work together, to do what you do. It takes work for that, man. And I respect that. I respect the younger generation, man. And I want to send a message to the younger generation and to you and to Sid that I love you. I respect you. I honor you for what you're doing. You're carrying the baton. You're carrying it into the next generation. And it's up to your generation, but it's also up to my generation to be here for you.
Yeah.
So when I say I'm with you, I'm with you. And anything that I can do to support what you're doing, I'm with you. Much respect to what you're doing, brother.
Same, Bobby. Look, you already know that. 10
Oh, yeah,
times over.
together, man. Yeah.
Same here. Yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Dr. Clark used to always say, Africans never said I'm my brothers and sisters' keeper. They just kept them.
That's right.
Okay. I'm not one for telling people I got your back. I just got your back. There are things
right.
I've done for people. They don't even know I interceded to help them. I never did it for a hand clap. I never did it for acknowledgement. I did it because I knew that's what was necessary to protect you at that point in time for what you were doing. And that's how we have to feel as a people. I don't do to receive. What I do because I know it will help our people. And that's the bottom line. And where we have to be as a people as we move forward. Dr. Clark told me, if you're in this for the money or the hand clap, get out.
Yeah.
And when I asked him, I said, how can I best help our people? And he said, you really want to help your people? You really want to help Black people? I said, yeah. He said, get a good job with a retirement plan. Because if you depend on the people for your support, not only are you going to be disappointed, but you have no right to put them in that position. You need to do for yourself. And then out of that, you then can make things happen.
Right.
And I took his His advice is very serious. I became a teacher with a good retirement plan.
Mm.
And so what I do and what I get, I'm able to take my work onto the road, as I've
Yeah.
done as I've visited Atlanta and been in your
Mhm.
studio a couple of times and had those great conversations.
Yeah.
This is how we gonna do it, brother.
Yeah. Indeed, Baba. As a teacher, educator for decades now, you've made, to your point, hundreds, even thousands of curriculums, right? What does our overall curriculum for Moorish history, what does that need to look like for us in 2025 going into 2026 on properly studying Moorish history?
I think that we have to break it up into pieces. I think that we have to look at our experience as Moors. I was looking at a piece that Dr. Khalid Muhammad was doing the other day.
Hmm.
It was on the other day. And he was saying about I'm a Moor. He said, yeah, I'm a Muslim, but I'm a Moor. Yeah, I'm a black man, but I'm a Moor. And what he was doing was actually what I'm trying to get folk to do. You can be a Catholic, you can be a Democrat, a Republican, you can be an independent, you can belong to this social club, you can be a Mason, but you're a Moor.
Hmm.
And you have to understand what the word. I do a etymological search for the word and the meaning of Moor. You see, Brother Caleb, one of the most important things is the concept of understanding psychophonics. The saku. That's what psychology comes from, the word saku. We say psychology is the study of the mind. It's not. It's the study of the soul. Saku is soul, the mind's soul. What your mind thinks, what it puts in place. Saku. And so sakuphonics is the purpose of language. See, we get caught up in letters. We say, gotta read, gotta read, gotta read. Reading is has its place, but it's the last step. The real thing is the words that come out of your mouth, the way you speak, it
Yeah.
creates vibrations. And vibrations create a frequency that puts you in tune. You know, have you ever had a great conversation with a brother or a sister and you're really, what do you say? I'm vibing.
Mm.
That's what you're doing. There's something beyond just your words that's bringing that conversation in place.
Right.
They're evoking and invoking in you something. You are invoking and evoking in them something, and you're vibing. That's what sounds are. And so when you look at the word more, you see a letter M,
Mm.
you see two vowels, and you see a R. But it's not more that's important. It's not Moor. It's the sound mr, mr. That's important. Indo-Europeans, ice people, are not one with nature because they grew up in the ice. And there's not much nature in ice except the ice. Africans, being in the tropical climate, they were taught language by nature. Nature taught them. For instance, in the very early days of their existence, of their consciousness, they saw a bird, huge bird, wingspan. And the wingspan, they would fly. And the sound that the wingspan made when went overhead sounded like,
Mhm.
so they call the bird Heru. When they spit, okay, that made the sound pata. You know, when they heard the wind pass by, sound like shoo, shoo, shoo. So they called the wind shu or air, shu. So sounds play a very important part in conversation. That's why rap is so important. No matter what may have happened with the words we use, it's the beats. That's the one thing that Haruna Neset taught me. Because when I was listening to various artists and the words, see, because I come from Smokey Robinson.
Yes,
Okay.
sir.
I come
Yeah.
from writers that spoke of love, and
Yeah.
love is just a mirage. And Sam and Dave, he said, when something wrong with my baby, something wrong with me. Okay. Words meant something.
Yes.
But now it's the beats that matter.
Yeah.
The words allow you to make the beats. So even if it's something that I say, what in the, it's the beats. And I can backtrack the beats to the first language that was ever spoken by the Twambuti Khoisan people. It's called the click language. The beats are the clicks. Listen to it. I can hear it. So when you know about the Moors, going back to your question,
Yeah.
when you know about the Moors, when you know about the Khoisan people that had the click language, the Twa people who had the click language, that the language came from consonants. We added vowels in order to open up the consonants in order to have words. So the real important word, the important concept in more is not Moor, it's Mr. 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 That creates a vibration that leads to a frequency. Now, in the book, I show you that the letter M in Meduneter or hieroglyphics is symbolized by the owl. And the sound of R is a mouth. So now why would more, in terms of what more means, the origins of the word, what would the origins of the word more mean? You have an owl and you have a mouth. Okay. When you look at the owl as see, I'm from the Bronx. I don't see too many owls in my neighborhood. Okay, so I got to go to the Bronx Zoo to see an owl, or I got to look in a book to see an owl. But when you're out
Right.
there in nature, owls are
Yeah.
all around you. So
Yeah.
owls you start looking at them, you start studying them, and you start seeing they got characteristics that sort of kind of make things happen. The owl has always been known or been characterized in our civilization as being wise.
Mhm.
When I was growing up, we had wise potato chips. The owl was on the pack. You see commercials even now where you have advertising for glasses to see better, knowledge and wisdom, see better. And it's an owl telling you the story. Okay. When you graduate, a lot of graduations, the symbol of graduations is an owl. So you're dealing with the concept, the characteristics of being wise when you see the owl. But okay, the owl is not the most intelligent bird. So why would the owl represent intelligence? Because the owl can do two things that to the African people symbolized something that was wise. For one thing, an owl can turn its head almost 360 degrees.
Yes.
It can take its head and look 360 degrees, which means that in all things that happen to you, you can see all sides. You're not prejudicial. You're not
Yeah.
standing off on the side and looking at something only one way. You have the capacity to see everybody's view of something. They saw that as being very wise. Owls are nocturnal animals, and they can see in the dark, which to our ancestors meant that you could see intelligence in ignorance. You could extract the best, and lead the rest. And so the owl represented knowledge, wisdom, and understanding. Mm, mm. Now let's take it to the next level. When you make the sound, M is the only sound you make where your mouth must be totally closed. M, M. It's the only sound you make with your mouth closed. A, B, C, D, E, S, Z, K, T. Your mouth is open. M is the only sound, only letter that we have where your mouth must be closed. And when you say the letter, the sound is the first sound that every human makes when they come out of their mother's womb and they suckle at her breast. Because in order to be able to extract the milk from mother's breast, your mouth must be totally closed and totally envelops the nipple and the first sound we make when we come on the planet. Okay. And when you make that sound, you tickle a part of your brain. And that area that you have in the Grand Lodge of Luxor in Egypt, they built a room specifically to show where that area is, and it's known as the sacred sanctuary. You have six senses. You don't have five. You have six. Thinking is a sense. That sacred sanctuary is right behind your olfactory bulb, is where you breathe, where you smell, is right behind your olfactory bulb. And that area right there, there's a physical location where all of your six senses come together. What you see, what you smell, what you hear, what you touch, what you taste, and what you think. They're all located right behind that olfactory bulb. And when you make that sound, you can feel a tickling in the back of your brain. That place where it's tickling, it's vibrating in melanin and cerebrospinal fluid. And that's why you have that meditative word, Mami, Muhammad. That M sound is very sacred because check this out. When you taste, when you taste something good, what do you say?
Yeah. You'd be like, yeah.
Okay. When you
Yeah.
get a good idea, what do you say?
Mm.
Mm. When
Yeah.
grandma got a situation where she got to think it over, right? She gets in the wheelchair and she starts to rock back and forth. And what does she start to do? She starts to hum.
Yeah.
She's meditating when she's doing that.
That's right.
Okay. So that letter M of more is the highest form of consciousness. It's bringing you into that level of being sacred as a human being. And then what is the R? Okay. We have three gifts that separate us from all others. We have intellect, reason, and language. Knowledge is the accumulation of information. Reasoning is manipulating that information to come to higher levels of consciousness in what you know. And then language allows you to transmit what you know. And it all comes from your mouth. So when you have the owl and the mouth, more, then what you have is the concept that Moors are the highest form, the masterpiece of the cosmic universe, endowed by their creator. Okay, not America's creator, not Europe's creator, by their creator. The pursuit of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. The creator gave you that when you were born. And that's what we have to understand about the Moors. We as Moors have been through all sorts of different situations, but we knew that if we just kept on keeping on, it wasn't over till we won. When you look at the curriculum and you're teaching our children, you have to look at the Moors from the perspective of the creative arts, which is like arts and crafts, sculpture. You have to look at the Moors as it relates to performing arts, dance, music. The first flamenco in Spain was flamenco moro. It was the black flamenco. We built schools in Europe. You look at language arts, all the different ways. You know, Black folk have a phenomenal way of talking. And not only that, but you know, when things get real good and we're into the vibe and the frequency is moving, our body starts to move. Yeah, that's bad, man. You know, I mean, some people say, you know, that's very good. And Black folks say, man, that's bad. And they say, but wait a minute, didn't you say that was good? But see, they don't understand that when something is so good,
It's
it got to
bad.
be bad.
That's right.
And then we get our intone and our voice into it. That's bad.
Mm.
And when it's better than bad, then we got to get our body up in it. You see, this is us. We have flavor. And so we have to teach our children to embrace that, to understand that,
That's right.
celebrate that. You know, that's the communication arts, performing arts, creative arts, and language arts. Then you have STEM, the sciences, science, technology, engineering, and math. You got to teach that to them as it relates to the Moors, because the Moors brought that into Europe. They built the universities of Europe, Cambridge, Oxford, Salamanca, Coimbra, okay, all of them. They brought in the first musical conservatory, okay? They brought the harp in to Europe, turned it sideways, encased it in wood, combined it with the kalimba, the finger piano, and that's how Bach and Beethoven started playing piano. Because when you look at a grand piano, it's a harp turned sideways. And that's why you got to lift it up in order for the sounds of the strings to be able to permeate the room. And so we got the science and the math. You know, we brought that into Europe. We brought soap, alcohol, call it alcohol today, to disinfect you when you're sick. We saved them. 2/3 of Europe was dying from the plague. That was a pandemic.
Mm.
Europeans were so superstitious, they got rid of all the cats in Europe, killed them or just chased them away. And them rats was sitting up in the sewer. And them rats was saying, yeah, get that cat over there, particularly that black cat. Get that black cat is bad luck. You know, a black cat once told me, you know, it was a white cat that started that rumor that black cats were bad luck. So they got rid of all the cats.
Yeah.
And when all the cats went to rats, when the cat's away, the mice will play. And the mice came out and gave them a disease. They had to buy rats from other countries in Europe to bring back into parts of Europe, along with the Moorish inventions of medicine and things like that, save them. And then you teach them geography, history, politics, economics, and social. The Moorish history from the Moors. You create curriculum out of that. And that's what I do. I create curriculum because out of all these books came out of classes I've already taught. And all I did was accumulate my work, my notes, because I used to always ask my students, you know, even my kindergarten children, I would ask them, you know, how could I have made this class better?
Mm.
You know, what could I have said that would have made you understand this a little bit better? Our older daughter, when she was in the 5th grade, she came home. And I used to sit with my children and work with their homework. But this particular time, she was learning long division. And I worked with her. We worked hard, man. Finally, she was getting it little by little. You know, she had to think
Mhm.
about it, you know. She got the answer. The next day, she come home and she's doing a long division. And man, let me tell you something, Brother Caleb, she's just knocking them things out like that. Man, and you know, like I'm feeling good about myself. I say, yeah, that daddy-daughter kind of thing going on here. I helped you, didn't I? And she said, yeah, daddy, I appreciate the help you gave me, but we had a substitute teacher today. And
Mm.
she said, if you ever want to understand how to do long division, just remember Dracula's mother sucks blood. divide, multiply, subtract, and bring over. Substitute teacher. Wasn't even her teacher. Those types of things, acronyms, things that we teach. Those little things help. And I've learned how to do certain things because when I teach long division, sometimes I teach. When I teach the planets, I teach the idea my very educated mother, comma, just served us 9 pickles. Even though Pluto not a planet, if it's on the test, get it right. Don't tell them the truth, you get the answer wrong. Oh. But that's the acronym for the 9 planets. Mercury, Venus, Earth, Mars, and then a comma. The comma is very important because that's the asteroid belt. Because that's what separates the inner planets from the outer planets. Because all the outer planets are gas giants, all the inner planets are solids. Mm-hmm. Okay, so you have my very educated mother, just Jupiter, served Saturn, us, Uranus, 9, Neptune, Pluto. Pluto not a planet. Pluto is a moon because it's a solid. It couldn't be a planet because it's a moon that circles Neptune. This is how we can teach the Moors. Have them draw owls, have them draw a mouth, teach them about the word. Go into all the different subject areas, help them understand music, art, and develop an understanding. Show them, cut out pictures of Moors. But see, it's up to us to create that curriculum, and that's what I'm attempting to do. We have to have the curriculum in place for our children to be able to learn this about the Moors and who the Moors were. And then, of course, in the book, I wind up with the fact that the hands that built the pyramids built the White House. Mm-hmm. So now I talk about the Moors in America. I talk about all the pyramids in America. Along the Mississippi River, there are over 110 pyramids. And there are major ones, big ones, Cahokia, Monk's Mound, in a place called Collinsville, Illinois. Ohio got Serpent Mound. Ohio got so many mounds when you go up to Ohio. And then you go to Utah. And then I say to people, okay, now what do you know about Utah? Okay, and right there, who you got up in there? You got Moor Mans. It's there right in front of us. And they are an outcast in the Christian faith. Mm-hmm. They, of course, turned it around, became very racial about it, but they were just doing that to offset the fact that they got their spiritual system from Black people who were already there when they got there. So we talk about the Africans in America and how far back they go, and we used the book by Dr. David Imhotep. The first Americans were Africans. Brilliant brother. So that's who we are, man. This, this is what we're doing, trying to move through this process.
Indeed, Baba. I remember, man, being a young freshman in college almost 10 years ago, 9 years ago now. And I remember I was first introduced to your work, from just scrolling on YouTube. And one of my favorite all-time lectures, I believe this might have been like early 90s, late 80s, you were talking about Moorish history. And one of those clips, you talked about there being more pyramids in the Americas than it is out in Africa, right? With all of that being said, on your hoodie, we see the native headdress, all of those things.
Yes.
What impact did the Moors have also in America as well? Because I think that that's not spoken on too much.
Well, that's the key also because I have 5 appendices in the book, and one of them is pyramids in America.
Yeah.
Okay, when you look at the feathers, okay, you're looking at Ma'at.
Yeah.
And the eagle in America is the falcon or the hawk in Africa. That's Heru, the resurrected sun. And so it's just so powerful when you think of the Moors, because all Africans are Moors. The Twa Mbuti Khoisan, they are African. And so when they came to this part of the world, they came about 100,000 years ago. And they laid the foundation for American civilization. See, this is why I say about the interpretation of things. Because the Chinese people are Africans.
Yeah.
They are a people that got caught in the Ice Age, but they traveled east. And they developed their own lifestyle. The ones that stayed in the West, they became Europeans. They're Africans. There's only one race on the planet, and that's the African. And one of the things that happened, and to understand pyramid, you have to understand something called ring tumuli. R-I-N-G, tumuli, T-U-M-U-L-I. That's the plural for tumulus, which is the singular. And these were mounds on the earth. These were earth mounds. These weren't man-made, human-made. And what Africans over time began to realize is that according to the shadow that is cast by the sun, tells you what time it is.
Yeah.
It can tell you the season that you're in. The big ones can tell you the season. This is what a sundial is. It can tell you what time it is. Okay? Because if you look at a watch really is a sundial.
That's right. Yes.
Now it's digital, so it's a little bit different. But when you had it, a clock really is something that goes by that concept of a sundial. And so when you're dealing with this idea of a ring tumuli, what our ancestors did is that they started to build them on their own, not just the earth ones, but they put them in places when they began to learn the different cardinal points. And when they wanted to deal with the cardinal points to know what season it was, what crops to grow, what time of day it was, they built these ring tumuli all around in their nation, in their environment. And so when you're looking, why pyramids? Why did they do that? When you look at the three pyramids in Kemet, all pyramids entrance is north. It all faces north. And if you were to get inside each of those pyramids, Khufu, Khafra, and Menkaure in the north, and open it up and put a telescope, every one of them point to the polar star. They all point to the polar star. And that is where the 26,000 year calendar came from. All on that particular star, Polaris. All of it. You can see as the Earth turns, you can see that they're all pointing towards that, and that's how they were able to create a 26,000 year calendar. And you can go to South Africa, I have it in the book, where you can go to something known as the Adams calendar. And that, they say, is between 100 and 150,000 years old. This is how deep it gets, Brother Caleb, in terms of what our ancestors did and how long they've been around.
Yeah.
And here in America, when you look at how long they've been here in America, the challenge, of course, is that there are those that believe that they are autochthonous. Okay, autochthonous, A-U-T-O-C-H-O-N-O-U-S, autochthonous, which means you came from the soil. There's only one place on the planet where humans came from the soil, and that's in Central and Southern Africa. Everybody else is a migrant. Even Ghanaians weren't born in Ghana. They all migrated from this center part in Africa and moved out. There's a part in my book, Who Were the Moors, that I talk about something very important to understand. Some people have a problem with it. But I found out, I studied it, I put the information in the book because I think it's important to understand. When you're dealing with the concept of, let's just say you're dealing with the concept of humanity and you're dealing with apes. Apes and humans did not evolve from apes. but apes and humans have a common ancestor. Some people call it Ramapithecus. See, I didn't write this in any of the other books. I was waiting for this book because this is where I can talk about it. Ramapithecus. Ramapithecus, or the Ramapithecines, were in a tree. There was some, for whatever reason, there was some Ramapithecines that decided to come down on the earth and walk. For whatever reason, some might have been kicked out, kicked off the tree, or saw something they wanted to get on the tree and went down to get it and decided, well, now that I'm down here, I ain't going back up there. Too crowded up in them trees. So they stayed on the ground. And then there were ones that stayed in the tree. The ones that stayed in the tree became pongids, the apes. The ones that came down on the ground became hominids. They were the beginnings of the human family. But what made the change? See, again, we got to go after evidence because I don't play with our people. Dr. Clark used to always tell me, don't play with Black people. Don't be cute. Don't try to be funny all the time. You can be humorous, but, don't play with them. Be serious with our people so that they can get a sense of and always be prepared. That's the one thing you always say, be prepared. And so that came out of the study, that came out of searching for evidence to be able to present to our people so that it makes common sense to them in their neurons. Henrietta Lacks, one of the many things that empress did, she was the one that showed scientists, because up until then, they thought that humans had 48 chromosomes, 24 from mother, 24 from father. Henrietta Lacks's cells, the HeLa cells, showed that, in fact, humans have 46 chromosomes. 23 mother, 23 father. But apes have 48. So what happened? You have to study chromosome 2 and 3 in the DNA structure of the Ramapithecine. And you'll see that the hominid did what's called cojoining chromosome. The telomere are at the areas of the chromosome that protects it from invading things. Don't let anything mess with the DNA. At some point in time, to survive on the ground, the telomeres came together. And what was once 2 chromosomes became 1. And that's what created humans out of Ramapithecine compared to the pongid or the ape. I have a whole diagram in the book on this. It took me about a year to do that research, just that alone, because I knew when I presented it, you can't take that to church. But that's the science of what happened. 2 chromosomes blended to become 1. And that's what made the 23 chromosomes in mother and 23 in father, and took away 1 from each of them, but they joined them into 1. And that basically is what separated the pongids from the hominids. And the reason why life did not come from America, could not be autochthonous to America, is because wherever the human form came, there had to have been apes in the close proximity. And the only place on earth you'll find apes is in Rwanda, in the Virunga Mountains. That is where they're from. You're not going to find apes in America. You're not going to find apes in Asia. You might get some orangutans, but you're not going to get apes or chimps as they are. So this is the evidence that separated the human, and this is the science of who we are as a people. And I think it's very valuable for those people whose minds are open and can handle it. It'll make a lot of sense to you. For those of you who may be wedded to religions, might not be too cool. But I love you anyway.
Indeed, Baba. Baba, in past lectures, you would break down cities like Cordova, right, where it's beautiful street lamps, all of these things. How advanced was Moorish society, technology, all of those things? And also, if the Moors, if they never failed per se in 1492, where would we be at as a people, civilization today, if that would have never failed?
You know, somebody need to write a book about that.
Yeah,
Somebody needs to write a book about the Moors in Europe
yeah,
and what would have happened had the Europeans been more appreciative of what the Moors did for them.
yeah.
And instead of trying to overtake them and conquer them and enslave them, had they embraced them, where would we be now? We probably would be traveling in space. We probably would have surpassed Mars. We probably would be beyond our solar system because our ancestors would have brought a science that Europe has never been able to contemplate. And the reason why they can't contemplate that, the biggest problem in Western civilization, this is what Professor James Smalls told us, is that the Greeks separated spirituality from science. And that's why my subtitle in Spirituality Before Religions is Spirituality is Unseen Science, and Science is Seen Spirituality. Because that alone, when you split them away from each other,
Yeah.
you can never come. And this is what Sister Marimba Ani meant by Yurugu, the incomplete one. You'll always be searching for something. You'll always be searching for that other person in you. You'll always be searching. You'll never find it because you'll look for love in all the wrong places.
Mm.
And part of our problem as an African people is we're looking for God out there. Brother sing a song, sister does a dance, win awards, and want to thank God. But you don't want to dance and sang. Why are you thanking somebody that ain't even here? You don't even know where they live.
Right.
You the one that danced. It was the God in you that performed that dance. It was the God in you that performed in that movie. It was the God in you that did that. But we are so prone to be slave-minded. We want to look outside ourselves for the greatness that we should be owning ourselves.
Mm.
Own your great. That's what Dr. Gabriel Yibo told me. Own your greatness and respect the greatness in others. When you honor your own greatness, it's not that you're putting anybody else down. It's just that you're recognizing how great you are. You know, Usain Bolt, that brother used to run. Okay. Other brothers and sisters in the Olympics. And at the end, wow, you know, they would profile, even in football, all the things that brothers do in football when they do something good.
Yeah.
Some people say, well, that's bragging, that's showing off. No, it's not. You just owning your greatness. Look at what you just did.
Right.
Hey, that's good. You know, we have different perceptions. Dr. Clark used to always say, and I always say, and it sometimes, you know, with the wrong group, you know, they might not necessarily understand. I tell people, I've never met a mind finer than mine,
Mhm.
but I've had the honor and the pleasure of being in the presence of minds as fine as mine,
Mhm.
but none finer.
Sure.
Own your greatness. Understand who you are. I tell that to children all. And a lot of the rappers do that, you know, when they profile and doing all this sort. But it's almost like they're doing it only because they want to feel it, but they don't know it.
Mhm.
Know it and know why. Know why you are the way you are. If you got something and you dropping it and you got that flavor, understand it, know it, own it. Be proud of it. Don't play it down. Let the children see how proud you are. That's one of the things I always work with children. I always try to lead by example. Carry yourself with dignity. Lead by example. Be proud of who you are. Be happy to be African. You know, when you and I spoke the other day, and you mentioned when you saw that Instagram post where I was really kicking it, man. I was having a good time. My niece's birthday. You know, one of the things that children often spoke to me about was the fact that a lot of times we seem angry
Yeah.
and we're always fighting. There's a place for that. But there's also a place to have a good meal,
Yeah.
have good friends, dance. Let folks see you dance. You know, let them know that you enjoy. You know, people say, "Well, that's Brother Kaba there. OG doing that."
Yeah.
I'm so used to him teaching about Moors and about culture and about whatnot, but the brother can get down. Yeah, I can get down. I enjoy life. And the reason why I fight the way I fight is so I can have the time to dance
Yeah.
and to celebrate. That's why we're here. Our Creator didn't bring us down here for us to suffer, because if we suffer, the Creator suffers. He brought us down here to have a good time. That's why He placed us in the Garden of Eden in Central and Southern Africa with all the different plants, all the different animals, all the different foods. Before we even came into existence, the Creator had created the banquet at the table. And then we came into existence to feast. Everything was set for us. But some of us, the prodigal son, we left home, went up into another area, and came back and brought devastation to the people that they encountered. So we got to enjoy ourselves, you know, and we have to celebrate life. We have to let our people know there's a reason to live.
Mhm.
You know, when you see certain things happening right now, you know, you wonder or are you a type of human?
Yeah.
You take food out of the mouth of the babes, celebrate, not celebrate, separate families. The most important core group is a family. You snatch daddy from the family. You take a baby off mother's breast as an infant. Who are you? Who are you? And so we have to let our children know that, okay, that's happening, but it's up to us to make a difference. That's why we have to get ourselves together. Man, we have to, you know, and we have it in us. We did it each time.
Yes, sir.
When the Greeks fell, we saved them. When the Romans fell, we saved them. When the Dark Ages came, we brought light to the Dark Ages. And then when they sold us in 1492 and they enslaved us, we fought back, and here we sit, Brother Caleb and Brother Kaba, sitting here talking about emancipation and liberation. We have to emancipate ourselves from mental slavery, because none but ourselves can free our minds.
That's right.
This is where we have to be now. And when I wrote the book, Who Were the Moors Before the Moors, bringing finality to that series, what I was attempting to say is, who were the Moors before they were the Moors? And the answer is, me or Moor. You are Moor. We all Moors.
Yes, sir, Bob. Baba, what can we learn from the Moors of the past in a time such as this, where, to your point about earlier, you see government shutdown, SNAP benefits, white supremacy, crazier, right? What can we learn from the Moors from their time to apply those lessons, information, knowledge, technology, etc., for right now in this current
Let
moment?
me let me take you to the Moors that were on the plantation
Mm,
here in America. See,
yeah, let's talk
we don't
about
have
it.
to go
Yeah,
back to 7-Eleven. We can go
that's
back
right.
to our ancestors on the plantation in this
That's
hemisphere,
right.
in
That's
the
right.
Caribbean, Central South America, Mexico, the United States, 13 colonies. Okay, what lesson did they teach us? They taught us when you deal with social studies, geography, history, politics, economics, and social. Geography tells you where, history tells you when, politics tells you how did you govern? Economics told you what was of value to you, okay? And social was who. Okay, so when you answer the questions where, when, how, what, and who, you answer the question why. And when you answer that question why, you come to realize something about our ancestors on the plantation. Where? They had no idea where they were. When? They had no idea when they were going to be free or when they were captured. How? There was no government. The governance was being enslaved. That's all you needed to know about your condition. That's the politics of your condition. Economics, you work for free. And they barely fed you. And they used food the way they're using SNAP today. They used food to make you turn against each other, to make you turn against your woman or woman to the man. And who? You ain't no idea who you were. You had no idea who you were. But they found out where they were. They found out when they got there. They found out how to govern themselves, and they found out the economics of the wealth of the human spirit, and they came to realize who they were. And then when they did that, they answered the question, why? And the reason why is because you were feared. The Moors were feared because Europeans knew that the Moors had saved them. And they knew that they would lose their power if you ever answered those 5 questions that would lead you to the 6th question. And that's why they punished you if you read. They forbid you from reading. And now what they're doing is they're taking your SNAP benefits and they're banning your books.
Yes.
Okay? Now, let me take you to another classical African civilization. Let me take you to the civil rights and the Black Power movement. And think about what our ancestors, what those Moors did then. Because those were Moors. Malcolm was a Moor. Martin Luther King was a Moor. Okay? Harriet Tubman, although she's in the other set on the plantation, but if you look at Ruby Bridges, that little girl that went to school with all them people yelling at her, Ruby Bridges, she was a Moor. You know, they were all Moors. What did they do? They did the best they could with what they had. Elijah Muhammad was a Moor. Marcus Garvey was a Moor. Noble Drew Ali was a Moor. Booker T. Washington was a Moor. See, that's the point I'm trying to make, Brother Caleb. All of these are Moors. We're all Moors. And we keep repeating the history, and they keep trying to divide us to stop us from understanding who we are. During the Civil Rights Movement, we answered the question, where, when, how, what, and who. And we came up with a civilization that blew the minds of all around the world. But now let me take you to another classical African civilization. Let me take you to the hip hop culture. Okay, because that's my culture. I grew up hip hop. I was a disc jockey in a radio station. I used to turntables. This was the growth of black radio with Bob Law, who had Night Talk. When I was at WWRL in New York in 1977-78, Bob Law was the director of community affairs. And I watched Bob Law do things in community relations that just was powerful. Black radio was happening. The black news was happening. So what did they do? They broke it up. I know because I was there. But what did the brothers do? Brothers say, oh, yeah? Okay, you see those 2 turntables? Well, I'm going to get me 2 turntables. All those clubs you don't let me in, I'm going to start my own house parties. And while I spin the records, I'm going to let my boy do the rap. He going to talk to you. That's a classical African civilization. So what did they do? They co-opted it because I saw them co-opt it. I was there. When I started teaching in the Bronx in 1979, Rapper's Delight was the #1 song on the radio. The first rap song, Rapper's Delight. I was there. I was in the Bronx. I was in the Bronx when I watched the Zulu Nation. I was in the Bronx when I watched all the gangs, the Black Spades, and everybody coming together to do some stuff. That's a classical African civilization. And so it becomes important that when you deal with Moors that you don't get caught up looking way in the distant past. And that's, again, I add in my book, today, who are the Moors today? And I honor 3 of them. The first one I honor is the Honorable Noble Drew Ali, who started the Moorish Science Temple of America. The second Moor that I pay respect to is Sister Clara Muhammad, okay, the First Lady of the Nation of Islam. People don't know what that sister did. If that sister had not done what she did, the Nation of Islam probably would have fallen when Honorable Elijah Muhammad was put in prison. She kept the nation alive. She used to write passages out of the Quran and sneak them into prison so that the Honorable Elijah Muhammad could do his prayers. Sister Clara Muhammad. And then the third one is a brother by the name of Clarence 13X. Okay. Also known as Father Allah, who created the 5% nation of God's own earth. I used to see him in Harlem growing up. Never spoke to him. Can't lay claim, not gonna lie now. But I saw him and I knew. And everybody always went, why do you always call you God? He said, hey, God, how you doing? People wondering. Because, I mean, you didn't hear people going around calling you God. And that was, Father Allah. And his Allah in Mecca is still standing on the corner of 126th Street and 7th Avenue. I pass it all the time. That's what brought me on to Wu-Tang's album. Because they followed my work. They knew my relationship with the 5% nation. I had a lot of brothers that used to come to my classes that were from the 5% nation. They would go back and teach the classes that I would teach them. Because when you understand certain things, and that was the strength of Father Allah, he was not afraid to call you God, to make you start realizing you are God. And he'd call you. There's no better way to know you God than to be called God. And that was his power. He called you God. You knew you were God. And that was the power of that time. So in my book, I honor those 3 and I say a little bit about them so that the community can understand who they were and how important they were. So when you're dealing with Moors, you can go back in time, which we do, but you always got to end as a solutionaire. And you always have to present, where do you go with this? Where do you go with this information? Well, after all that you learn about the Moors, now realize that you're a Moor, me a Moor, you a Moor, we a Moor.
Beautiful, Baba. What does the future of the Moors looks like to you, Baba? The future of the Moors.
I think, this is my own personal thing.
Yeah.
I think if people should read my book, take the best and leave the rest. But if you understand the point that I'm trying to make with you, as who the Moors were, you are Moor. You're a Moor. And it's important for you to understand the legacy that has been handed down from before the beginning began until now, and to own your greatness. And I have good news, and I have not so good news. The good news is that Dr. King was right. His last speech, the last 1 minute and 19 seconds of his speech that he gave at that Masonic Lodge, he told us that we as a people would get to the promised land. He said, I may not get there with you, but it doesn't matter with me now, because I've been allowed to go to the mountaintop and look over, and I've seen the promised land. That's the good news. All this stuff that you see out here, I tell the children all the time, I say, yeah, there's some stuff going on out here, but we've been through worse, and we've gotten through it, and we'll get through this, because no man can hurt who Jah has blessed. And we have been blessed as a people. The resilience, the power, the intelligence, the stick-to-itiveness that we have. Yeah, we have our challenges. There's no doubt about that. We're not going to sugarcoat that. We have to get to a certain point. But what I want our young people and everybody else to understand is that we will get through this. No monkey stop, no show. Okay. And the bottom line is that, you know, there are things that are going on now that are at the bottom. And you see, the thing is, my mother used to always say, never trigger a nut and never corner a rat. It's the only 2 times that a coward will attack. And right now we done triggered a nut and we cornered the rat. And that's what we're experiencing now. What is happening to our brothers and sisters is horrible. To all of our Spanish-speaking brothers and sisters, wherever you may be, remember, before it was New Mexico, it was Mexico. Remember the people that are being pushed down now? Guatemala, El Salvador, Honduras. These were the people that were in America that were pushed down south. And now they are being called the illegal aliens. According to who you ask who the illegal aliens are. I remember a woman once said, give me your poor, your tired, your huddled masses, those who yearn to be free. And look what happened when we let them in. They made us poor. They made us the huddled masses. And they made us yearn for freedom. Isn't that something? When you stop and think about it, what type of people would do that to another people who only helped them? If Native Americans hadn't helped them survive, learn how to deal with the winter, learn how to grow crops, learn what crops to grow, gave them a plot of land. And Thanksgiving, invite them to their table to eat, because everything at the Thanksgiving table was theirs, from the turkey to the stuffing, to the squash, to the corn, to the cider. That was Native American. Were no European delicacies at that table. And they were poor, they were tired, and they were hungry. They were huddled masses invited in to eat. And what did they do on Friday? They started to murder them. The same people. And now look at what's happening now. The Creator has put all of us on this planet, no matter who we are. There's enough room on our planet for everybody to live. And brother, you know, I know that people are concerned about what other people are getting, as if they're not getting it. But the bottom line is that if we had listened to Marcus Garvey and Malcolm X, we wouldn't be worried about getting the crumbs off somebody else's table, because we would already have our own bakery on our own block. We'd already own everything that we need. But we still begging people for something that we should be doing for ourselves. And so the message that I say to people is, we got good news and we got bad news. We gonna make it to the promised land, But the not so good news is that if you keep your priorities where they are sometime, you're not going to be part of what makes it. And for me, it's not about anything special about you. You don't have to have no special degrees in school. You don't have to have a whole bunch of money. All you're going to have to do is have a Ma'atian heart, have a good heart, and respect and love yourself, respect and love nature, and a way will be made for you. And as we speak, a way is being made for us right now.
Yeah.
And all we got to do is keep on keeping on, because it ain't over till we win.
Yes,
The
sir.
future is ours, brother.
Mhm.
The future is ours. And when I say ours, who is ours? We, the people. When we develop a government for the people, by the people, and of the people. When we learn how to govern ourselves. And no old white rich men. Okay, that Constitution ain't working for me. It's not that the words aren't right, it's the interpretation of it that I have a problem with. Because if we could have gotten Voting Rights Act in 60s and now you're taking it back, that law don't mean nothing to me. If a woman could get her Equal Rights Amendment in place and now she's being denied her rights, she never had the rights. The law has to be universal. It has to be ma'at. It has to be universal. That's why Malcolm was more accurate than Martin Luther King. Because the thing that you have to fight for is human rights. Because if you have human rights, civil rights are automatic. You don't even have to write civil rights because of human rights. Malcolm was more correct. They both were right, but Malcolm was more accurate. Human rights first, then civil rights. And the evidence is look what's happening now. Taking back voting rights, taking back the right to assemble, taking back women's rights to determine for their own selves what they want to do with their lives. Laws are permanent. They don't go by who's up front. It's permanent. And so now here they are changing what they promised. But then why are we surprised? They ain't never met and respected any treaty they made with indigenous people. They never kept their word in anything that they've ever said. So what makes us think that they're going to do this now? It's up to us. It's up to us. That's what we tell the children. I know people have their feelings towards the upcoming mayor, Mamdani. I know a lot of people have their own feelings. But you know what he did? He talked to the people.
Yeah. Yeah.
Or it wasn't about hating Trump. He didn't make Trump the cornerstone to his thing. He was saying what he was going to do for them. Your rent, we're going to stabilize your rent. We're going to create 5 grocery stores in each borough. And we're going to make food affordable in those 5. They're going to be government grocery stores. Now, you know what's going to happen. They're going to become very popular. And more neighborhoods are going to want that. And that's going to make other supermarkets deal with their prices. He told them, child care. For a mother with 3 children, you need child care if you're going to go out and work to pay the rent, put food on the table. Child care is ridiculous, the prices.
Yeah.
He said, we're going to have universal child care. He spoke to the people. And because he spoke to the people, and he spoke to them about the things that they needed to hear, we're spending too much time talking about who we hate, as opposed to what we're going to do because we love you. And that was Mamdani. And Trump is not afraid of Mamdani because he's going to fail. He's afraid of Mamdani because he's going to succeed. Because if he felt that Mamdani was going to fail, he would just let him go ahead. Go ahead, because you ain't going to be able to do. But the thing is, they asked this guy that was robbing banks. They said, "Why you rob banks?" He said, "Why you ask me that question?" They said, "Why? Why?" He said, "That's a stupid question. I rob banks because that's where the money is." So Mamdani told you where he gonna get the money from. He's going to make corporations and billionaires and millionaires pay their fair share in taxes. And with the kind of money they get away with, that will take care of child care. That will build that grocery store. That will make buses free. And if you don't like it, get out of New York. But where you going to go? Where will you go if you do leave New York? You say, I'm going to leave New York if you do it. Well, where you going to go? You going to start a business somewhere else? You ain't going to do that. You're going to pay your taxes like everybody else. Secretaries pay more percentage-wise in taxes than the owner of the corporation. Pay your fair share. Pay your fair share. Stop being so greedy. In governance, you got to talk to the people. And you got to solve the most precious things: food, clothing, shelter, safety. If you can solve that, they'll follow you for the rest of your life.
Mm-hmm.
You got to talk to the people. That's what the Black Panther Party did. That's what made the Black Panther Party so successful. I am a cub of that experience, so I know what they did for me. And it's very possible that much of who I am today comes out of the influence. Being around the Black Panthers was for me as a young brother growing up, 12, 13, 14 years old. They fed the community. They clothed the community. They protected the community. They had a legal system. Okay. They had a security system. Okay. They had a legal system. Everything that the community needed, the Black Panthers provided. Same thing with the UNIA with Marcus Garvey. Same exact thing. Go to the needs of the people. Solve those problems. Daddy Grace did the same thing. There's a lot of movements that came about growing up where they fed the people and respected them. It wasn't a handout. It was a hand up. There are many of our people that are not in the position. I'm blessed. I think you're blessed. Considering what some of our people are going through, I'm blessed. I am not going to complain. And wherever I can, you see, my thing is I don't give money to organizations for the poor. I give money in the street. I carry, man, I'd show you, but I have it in my vest. I mean, I have this brown envelope that has at least 30 singles in it. And when I stop at a red light, brothers out there, I give them some. When I stop at a store and somebody opens the door, I give the sister something. It's not a handout, because by the grace of God, there go I, my brother Khalid. I grew up in a project. I know, having the choices that I've made in my life, there go I. I could have been out on the street asking somebody for some money. Considering there were certain things that happened in my life that were blessings. But I could have been like that. I could have turned out like that had I been under different conditions. And some of our people are in that position. And we have to be with them with respect and with dignity for them. And even if there are times I don't have anything, and I just say, brother, sister, you caught me on a bad day. I don't have anything. But I do wish you a good day. And I hope you stay safe. We can at least give them a greeting. Because sometimes that greeting means more than if we actually gave them something. You know? We are Moors. And them brothers that are asking for money, they more.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Man, I appreciate this conversation. As always, Baba. This was absolutely beautiful. Always having the opportunity to never take that lightly. Baba, where can everybody purchase the book? Stay in tune for the Moors, before the Moors. How can they purchase this, read this, learn more about this subject matter?
The Who Were the Moors Before the Moors is up on Amazon now.
Mm.
Okay. The other books are on Amazon but they also can be ordered through me, which I'll sign if you go to my website, www.kabakamene.com, KABAKAMENE.com. And you can go to the link in my bio in my Instagram, Kaba Kamene, KABAKAMENE. You'd be able to put that in the connection
Yes,
there,
sir.
brother? Okay,
Yep.
yeah. But who were the Moors before the Moors? That's up on you'll find that book on Amazon, you
Mhm.
know, and this is it here.
Yes,
Who were the
sir.
Moors before the Moors? This is my longest book. I have a piece on the Dogon. They were Moors. I have a lot of photographs also. And this is the fifth and final book, brother.
Mhm.
Now we're working on curriculums on solar power, artificial intelligence, which I'm calling ancestral intelligence,
That's right.
because I'm a curriculum writer. But I took these 11 years out of my time to write these books because I really felt that I needed to put this in place.
Mhm.
So, family, I appreciate your support. I appreciate your time. Brother Caleb, thank you, brother. I appreciate you. I respect you. I honor you. I love you. Sister Sid, it's just anything we can do to support you.
Mhm.
You just give a shout.
Same, Baba, man. We love you. You already know 10 times over. The book, placing my order, getting that this week for sure. But Baba, thank you for all of your work, decades long. Again, you mean so much to my generation. Again, like our master teacher of, everything that we've learned. Consciousness, you were my first introduction to Moorish history. So
Mm.
I salute you, Baba, greatly. Thank you for all of your work. Keep that up. And you are always welcome here every single time. So thank you for this, Bob. I thoroughly enjoyed this conversation. Thank you.
Reciprocal, brother. I appreciate you and I appreciated this time, brother. I really did.
Yes, sir.
I enjoyed this conversation.
Yes, sir, Bob.
Passing the baton off to you and Sid.
Love. Hey, I receive it, Bob. You be safe and you have a beautiful night, Bob.
All power to the people, brother.
Right. Peace.
Peace.